أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون اللهم ربنا لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربنا زدنا علما ولا تجعلنا من الجاهلين ربنا يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير يا فتاح رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته ما شاء الله. Inshallah, tonight we are going to speak a bit about knowledge and the importance of knowledge. Allah Azza wa Jal, when He sent the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the whole world was filled with darkness. Knowledge was lost to the world. There was no proper aqidah. There was no proper belief system. The world was rampant in shirk. And Allah Azza wa Jal was not being worshipped as He ought to be worshipped, except by few people. When I say few, I don't mean one or two or three, but there may have been a lot of people, but with respect to the amount of people in the world, they were a sheer minority. And the last revelation that came to man at that time was the Injil given to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. But that, when Allah Azza wa Jal revealed it to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, after a period of time, it was corrupted, it became corrupted. It was not corrupted, it became corrupted in the sense that people, they changed up words in the Bible, they changed up words, they inserted some, they took out some, and they misrepresented ideas that Allah Azza wa Jal gave them. For instance, there is a common belief among the Christians that God created man in His image. God created man, something like that they believe in. And there is a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says that خَلَقَ اللَّهُ آدَمَ عَلَى صُورَتِهِ. Very, very remarkable. That Allah created Adam in His image. Yeah? Allah created Adam in His image. So we have to go back to some Arabic now and some grammar rules. And the original idea of a pronoun in Arabic, which is called damir, is that the damir goes back to the nearest noun, except if there is some proof to show otherwise. So when we investigate this hadith, خَلَقَ اللَّهُ آدَمَ عَلَى صُورَتِهِ, we have Adam coming closest to the word His image. So His image refers not to Allah's image, but to Adam's image. That the image in which Allah Azza wa Jal wanted to create Adam, He created him in that image. So a simple thing like this was lost among the Christians, and they think that man was created in the image of God. So this is how some misunderstanding came about, and certain things were changed around, and knowledge was lost. With the loss of knowledge, you have the loss of Aqidah, you have darkness. In fact, the historians call that time the Dark Ages. And there were a lot of Roman and Greek philosophy that was going wrong. Hedonism was the rule of the day, where people, basically, they were out for enjoyment. And if you look at what was happening that time, and you kind of look what's happening now in the world, you will see a lot of similarities. You'll see a lot of similarities. So the Greeks and the Romans, they had different gods: the gods of war, the gods of thunder, the gods of the rivers, of the tide, and whatnot. Again, that could have been a bit of a misunderstanding and a misrepresentation, whereby we know that Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives certain angels responsibility to do certain acts of nature. So again, when they perhaps, they over-philosophize things and they try to over-explain things, and the real message that is supposed to be there would be lost eventually. Ali radiallahu anh, with this thing about, trying to look at things being rational and all that all the time. As Muslims, we do not try to find a rationale for something, the wisdom behind everything. If you know the wisdom behind it, mashallah, it's better. But if we don't know the wisdom and we are told certain things, then whether we understand the wisdom or not, we are instructed, we are given certain commands to do, that we should follow it. Sam'an wa ta'atan, we hear and we obey. If we wait to get the wisdom of certain things, then a lot of our actions, we may not do it. So Ali was saying, that if all the religion of Islam was based on reason, and there is reasoning in Islam, but if the whole of Islam was based on reasoning, then we would be wiping the bottom part of the socks instead of the top part when we are making wudu. And we are making mass, wiping the socks. Why are we wiping the top of the socks and not the bottom of the socks? What is the reason? What is the wisdom behind that? So, all sorts of things, you don't look for reasoning. When we pass wind, we have to go and make wudu, ablution, and we wash all over our bodies, our hands, our face, etc. But that place where the wind comes out, we didn't wash it. Okay, so not everything is based on a reasoning, and we have to know the wisdom behind this, or else I am not going to do it. No. We just have to know that Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they have commanded us, and that's enough reason for us. مَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ. It is not for any believing man and woman that when Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger, when they have decided on a matter, that they, the believers, have any choice in it. So when Allah and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when they have decided a matter, we have no choice but to follow. Yes, we have choice. We could follow, we could disobey. That is the choice we have. When we say we have no choice, it means if we want to obey Allah, if we want to earn the rida, the pleasure of the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, then we need to obey it. And don't worry too much about, why. And this is especially true for, sometimes the sisters are the ones who have to make the most changes when they become Muslims. And if we are ordered that we must wear the hijab, then we have to wear it. You need a little time sometimes to do certain things, fine, but don't stay too long. Don't stay too long. We must hear and we must obey. So mankind was in darkness. There was a lot of slaves system all over the place, serf system in Europe, in India and these places. There were people who were considered to be untouchables. The caste system still exists there. And basically the whole world was in turmoil. So too was the Arabian Peninsula. Allah Azza wa Jal chose to send Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam He chose Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from among Quraysh. Quraysh were Arab, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was chosen from Banu Hashim, the tribe of Hashim, his own personal tribe, one of the smaller tribes of Quraysh. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره الكافرون. He is the one who sent his messenger with the religion of truth, so that he will establish it over all ways, even though the disbelievers dislike it. So Allah Azza wa Jal sent his messenger, right, to take mankind away from all the different areas of darkness into light. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila nur. That Allah is the friend and the protector of those people who believe. He takes them from darknesses, the word that is used here is the plural, into light. So darknesses of shirk, associating partners with Allah, worshipping other than the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, and this was all over the world, and it is still all over the world, of kufr, of disbelief, of disobedience, of not knowing into knowing. The nur is tawheed, the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. The nur is following the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and following Allah Azza wa Jal, following that light. So he sent Jibreel with messages to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam over a period of 23 years, 13 in Makkah, 10 in Medina, revealing the Quran over a period of time, and inspiring the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam on how he must conduct himself and how he must teach his Sahaba, and by extension the whole Ummah, how to conduct themselves in this world. So he revealed in Makkah the first 5 verses. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaq al-insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. Alladhi allama bil qalam. Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created. Khalaq al-insana min alaq. He created man from alaq. Alaq is the cloth suspended, hanging in the womb. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Read, and your Lord is most honorable. Alladhi allama bil qalam, the one who taught by the pen. Allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. He taught man that which he didn't know. Now what I find fascinating about these 5 verses is that education, some aspect of education, some aspect of knowledge has been told to us here. The very first word of revelation, the very first word of the final revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal to mankind starts off with Iqra, read. And that, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, my dear people, is a component of knowledge. Read, Iqra. And then he says in the 3rd verse, Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Again he says read. So twice we have read. Then in the 4th verse, alladhi allama bil qalam, the one who taught by the pen. We have teaching and we have pen. Allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. Teaching again. He taught man that which he didn't know. So we have 2 Iqra, 2 reading, 2 allama, 2 teaching, and 1 pen. All these 5 instances or 5 words, 3 different words, but overall 5 times some aspect of knowledge, of education has been mentioned. Read, read, teach, teach, pen. But actually in order is read, read, teach, pen, read. That's the order of it. And Allah knows best. But there has to be some significance to this. And there is. And again, whether we understand it or not, Allah knows best. But it should tell us that coming to a messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who couldn't read and write, and then Allah Azza wa Jal knows that he couldn't read and write, yet we have the very first word coming to him is Iqra. So, belonging to the nation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of those who believe in him, then we have to know and understand that education is very, very important for us. Knowledge is very, very important for us as Muslim. So Allah Azza wa Jal himself, he calls himself Al-Alim, the one who knows. Al-Khabir, the one who gets all the information. Al-Basir, the one who has insight of everything and he sees everything, and so on. And he tells us in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. He is restricting the fear of Allah to the people who have knowledge. Indeed, only the people of knowledge fear Allah. If you don't have knowledge about Allah, how can you fear Him? So the ulama, they would read and they would learn the basics of knowledge, which has to start, of course, with the Arabic language. And you have subjects like balagha, which is like rhetoric, goes deeper into the Arabic language. And you have to study subject balagha only when you know Arabic language. And then you have the different usul al-fiqh, the principles of fiqh, the principles of hadith, the principles of Quran. And all these are things, these sciences are very relevant if you want to study Quran. Now, it doesn't mean to say that when you all sit here, anybody listening to a lecture or going to a class or some dars, that is compulsory upon them to study those things. If you want to further yourself in Islamic knowledge, yes, you have to study them. So when you come here and you go to other places and you listen to lectures and you listen to khutbah and you read articles that people may have written, you gain knowledge as you go along, mashallah. And when we give lectures, we learn as we go along too. So it doesn't rule out that. But if you want to go deep into the Islamic knowledge, into the Quran and the Sunnah, well, the Quran is in Arabic. The Quran is not English. When you read translation, this is what you read. You read an English translation. You cannot use that for your salah. So the English translation and the French translation and the Urdu and Spanish and Latin, not Latin, but whatever, Portuguese or whatever translation you have are good in the sense that those people who do not know Arabic and they know these languages, they can benefit somehow, in some way, by reading at least some translation of the Quran. And of course, you need people to lead you on into the explanation of the Quran and the Hadith, because it may not be as straightforward as you may think, and there are verses that are very straightforward. So the ulama are the ones who fear Allah Azza wa Jal. And maybe there is some barakah in it, that even if an alim, a person who is a scholar in another field other than Islamic law and Islamic knowledge, if they were really to look into their scholarship and into their works and into the works that have been done and certain things, they will see a link between all these sciences. They will see a link in the social studies and even in geography, a link between those things and what the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have. And those people in their capacity, in that special knowledge, specialization of knowledge that they have gained, if they were really to dig into that, they will find signs of Allah Azza wa Jal. They'll find signs of Allah Azza wa Jal in those things. So the Quran, there are many different things that are mentioned in the Quran that deals with science, deals with geography, the creation of a child in the womb, medicine, you name it. So Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, Ma farratna fil kitabi min shay, mashallah, that He didn't leave anything out of the book. He didn't come up short in the book. The book is not naqis. It is not lacking anything. Anything in what? Anything that Allah Azza wa Jal wanted to tell us. All that He wanted to be revealed to us has been revealed. All that Allah Azza wa Jal intended to be revealed for us has been revealed. And He has given us every single instrument of knowledge that we need to fulfill our purpose on the earth. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I didn't create jinn and man except that they worship me. And that is the purpose on the earth. So if it is that we want to say or try to evaluate our life on this earth and see whether or not we are fulfilling what we are sent for, then it may not necessarily be how much money you're making at the ending of the month, or how many buildings you built, how many cars you have, but it will do with, have I been worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal? Have I been worshipping the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal? Have I been following what the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what they have told me? Have I been following that? Because you could do those things that I just mentioned and still be following Allah and worshipping Him, and you can do those things and disobeying Him. So you're building your building, the time for Dhuhr Salah comes and you don't pray. Yeah? Or you're selling in a meat shop, time for us, you don't pray. Not just the beginning of us, but the whole of us goes and we don't pray. We are disobeying the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. We go to the toilet and we don't practice proper istinja. Yeah, we have our own toileting rules. We don't obey the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. Very simple things. We eat haram. We drink haram. We wear haram. We are not following the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. So, what Allah Azza wa Jal has given us in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it is enough. He did not come up short. He has given us every single thing that He wanted to give us, and He has given us every single thing for us to worship Him. Everything that He wants us to know about, He has given us that knowledge. So whether we are go about, we have those cell phones and whatnot, in our time, or 300 years ago, when there were no cars or anything like that, people had to ride horses and whatever modes of transport, walk, maybe bicycles were around that time, Allahu Alam. Right? Whether this or that, the knowledge that was there was still enough for us to worship the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal and get on and survive. So, ma faratna fil kitabi min shay. We have not come up short in the Quran. We have given everything that everybody need to survive. So, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, "Talabul ilmi fariidatun ala kulli Muslim." To seek knowledge is compulsory on all Muslim. So we come to the idea of primary knowledge and secondary knowledge. What is primary knowledge and what is secondary knowledge? What is the compulsory knowledge and the non-compulsory knowledge, but it's good to get it. Many of us as Muslims, we kind of switch it around. We switch it around. We look at going to school and having an education, a secular education, going to school, primary school, secondary school, university, as a compulsory knowledge. Oh, and oh, by the way, I will send my child to maktab, the secondary knowledge. Now we have to ask ourselves, we need to have a career, mashallah. We need to have our job. We need to work and fill our mouths and feed our wives and our children. We need to have a good job, as Allah Azza wa Jal would wish. We need to have that. But if we put that first and we pursue the dunya, because all this is part of dunya, even though it is part of our duty to do, to take care of the charges under us, But if we pursue that and neglect the hereafter, pursuance of the hereafter, then we are failing in our duty and our purpose on the earth. So if we can balance it off and teach our children, they have to go to school, fine, but we must also give them that education, that Islamic education that will do what? Save them from the fire of hell. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Oh, you believe, save yourselves and the family from the fire of hell. And how are we going to do that? They pass for SAGs, they pass for Arima, they pass for this, MashaAllah. And we make sure, we make all that effort that they pass. And the child, 11 years old, passes the SEA, and does not pray except now and then. Muru awladakum bis-salati wa hum abna'u sab'. Command your children to pray when they are 7 years old. Wadribuhum alayha wa hum abna'u ashr. And beat them for it when they are 10 years old. Not a terrible beating or anything like that, but a beating to make them embarrassed. But listen to this. If a child between 7 years old and 10 years old have been asked to pray, and this is the most important part, they see their mother and their father praying, they will pray, insha'Allah. And we take them to the mosque, and we take them in the presence of Muslims, and they see what Islam is about, and we teach them how to pray, they will pray. But if we send them to the maktab and they learn to pray, and when they come home, mommy and daddy not praying, you're going to have a serious problem. So, while we take care of our children, and we ensure that they are healthy, and they are knowledgeable in their schoolwork, we may not be saving them from the fire of hell. Because I've seen with my very own eyes, children being taken care of very well. Children reaching the age of 16, 17, 18. One or two of the parents praying, and these children not praying. The girls not in hijab. What's happening? So we digress a little bit, and I'll talk about this a little bit. And we say we love our wives, we love our husbands. The wives are saying that. We love our children. So if we love each other so much, we must love each other to be with each other in the hereafter. So the compulsory education for us as Muslims is to know about Allah Azza wa Jal and to know about Islam. To know what is Tawheed, to know what is Shirk. To know what is halal, what is haram. That is the compulsory education for us. Because if we don't know these things, we'll be doing a lot of disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. People can be committing shirk and they don't know. People can be committing shirk and they may not know. We don't want to be in that category. So talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli muslimin. So to seek knowledge is compulsory on every Muslim. And it does not suffice us to simply send our children to maktab. And when they go to secondary school, maktab is done. Okay? It has to be deeper than that. We're not saying that everybody must become ulama, because we do need teachers, we do need doctors, we do need lawyers, gynecologists, you name it, psychologists, we need them in different fields. But if we have these professions, and we do not know our basic Islamic duty, and we don't keep on learning, we keep on learning until we die learning, then we will not be fully fulfilling what we were sent out to do. So with knowledge, we always should try to wonder. The majority of us, we wonder, oh gosh, I wonder what he thinking about me, boy. What a man think about me, boy. The girls might be saying, I wonder what a sister thinking about me. Am I popular? Am I not popular? Yeah? I wonder if the boss like how I do my job. I wonder if Mufti Wasim is pleased with my teaching. I wonder, etc. Ever wonder about what Allah thinks about you? Do we ever wonder about what Allah Azza wa Jal thinks about you, about us? And herein comes in the ikhlas, the sincerity of our hearts. Because if we do not wonder what Allah thinks about us, how He views us, is He pleased with me, is He not pleased with me? If we don't do that, then we would not realize that we are accountable to Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment. And when you don't have any accountability in your heart to anybody, even to your boss, if you figure you're working for your boss and somehow or the other the boss not asking you to account for what you do, you're going to make a mess. Except if you have that sincerity in your heart that, look, he's paying me for a job and I have to do it. And I'm going to steal from him, I'm not going to pilfer from him, I'm not going to be insincere in my duties, that when he goes away, you know, say when the cats are away, the mice will play. And from the time he turns into the yard, we start back doing our jobs. No. So how does Allah Azza wa Jal think about us? How does He think about us? So the Quran tells us, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are those who know, are they equal to those who do not know? Are they on the same level? So this is a question that has been asked and the answer is in it. Right? It's like asking the question, in normal circumstances, is $1 and $100 the same? We know the answer. The $100 is more. So those people who know and those people who do not know, are they the same? The answer is known. The answer is no, they are not the same. Those people who know are better than those people who do not know. إِنَّمَا يَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. The ulul albab, the people, the possessors of knowledge, they are the ones who remember the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. The people of knowledge. So knowledge. What is the most important knowledge? La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. This La ilaha illallah. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam in a hadith, he's telling Allah Azza wa Jal, you know, Allah spoke with Musa, he's Kalimullah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is Kalimullah as well. So Musa is asking Allah, oh my Lord, teach me something, right, that will get me close to you. Look at that, Anbiya, a Nabi, a prophet, a messenger, one of the 5 great prophets. He's asking Allah to tell him something that will bring him closer to Allah. He wants to be so close to Allah. So he tell him, La ilaha illallah. So Musa was saying, but everybody says that. All the prophets before us, they say that. So Allah Azza wa Jalla tells him that if the heavens and the earth, in fact, if all of creation, the meaning of it is, if all of creation were to be placed on one side of a scale, and the kalima la ilaha illallah were placed on the other side, it will outweigh it. So this is the power of la ilaha illallah. You don't have to be an alim. You don't have to be a mufti, a pir, a maulana, a sheikh, a doctor in education, or nothing to know la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. That's the first thing we're supposed to hear when we are born. And we're supposed to be saying that's supposed to be the last thing that come out of our lips when we are dying. And we don't know when we are dying, so we should say it all the time. La ilaha illallah is the most important single statement you could ever make. And there's so much reward for it. One man came on the Day of Judgment, 99 scrolls of evil deeds and bad deeds laid out to him. Each scroll is as far as the eye could see. All this is in hadith. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is asking him, do you have any good deeds? Do you have any excuse for what you have done? Or do you have any good deeds? He says, no. He acknowledges. He says, do you acknowledge all this? He says, yes. Do you have any good deeds? No. Do you have any excuse? No. no, my Lord. So he acknowledged it. He didn't say, no, I didn't do these. The kuffar would defend what they did, and they would want to say different things. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, yes, you have good deeds with us, and today you will not be wronged. As it turned out, there was a little card that was written in it, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. And with that, it outweighed his bad deeds, and he was told to go to Jannah. La ilaha illallah. The meaning of it is that that person believed it in his heart. You know, there are some people, and when I'm saying this, I'm not going to encourage people to drink. There are some people who they drink a lot. This is why you be careful how you're judging people. You see a Muslim who's a drunkard and say, boy, you're going to fire hell and I'm going in heaven. La ilaha illallah, you are Allah, now you're judging. يَخْتَصُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He specially gives His mercy to whomever He wishes. He gives His mercy to whom He wishes, not to whom we wish. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told that, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You're not guiding who you want, Muhammad. La ilaha illallah. The last messenger, Habibullah, is being told, you cannot guide whom you want. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. But Allah is the one who guides whomsoever He wants on the right way. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot guide whom He wants. He's murshid alone. He shows the way. He shows the way. Allah Azza wa Jal is musarriful qulub. He's the one who changes the heart. Not man, not you and I. When you're telling your family, pray, 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 whether you tell them good or bad, with good counsel or you're shouting, whatever it is, however, and I hope you're doing it nicely. And they're not praying. You're going to abandon it? وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا خَمْسِينَ عَامًا. Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah sent Nuh to his people and He stayed with them 1,000 except 50 years, 950 years He stayed with them. And only a handful of people believed in Him and followed Him. So La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. So a man who's a drunkard, right? But he believes in La ilaha illallah. You want to give him money so he would leave Islam. He said, no, I'm a Muslim. It have people who drunk and they ain't go eat pork. And they ain't go eat haram chicken, but they go drink the rum. It's wrong, it's haram, and he can be punished for that. But you know, if there's a reason that he has to defend his Islam, he might be before us running to defend Islam. Some of us might be cowards because really and truly, we can't even defend ourselves when you think about it. We can't even defend ourselves. So, we have to be very careful how we judge. And this is the power of La ilaha illallah. And we know it. Don't we know it? Don't we know La ilaha illallah? We know it. How many times a day do we say it outside of our salah? How many times? When that should be our last statement. How many people leave the mosque and die, or left home and die and then go back home? Every single day it happens. Every single day it happens in Trinidad because somebody's dying in Trinidad. Either being murdered or died on an accident. Every day, how many, maybe millions or hundreds of thousands of people die a day in the world. They leave home and they don't come back. And we don't say La ilaha illallah. So knowledge has to be translated into action, or else it's just going to be a hollow shell. And this is where our iman comes in. That if we say we have iman, then the ulama have defined iman, and this is very, very important. At-tasdiqu bil-qalb. You must believe it with your heart. Believe it with your heart. Wal-qawlu bil-lisan. You must say it with your tongue. Or nutqu bil-lisan. Say it with your tongue. Pronounce it with your tongue. amalu bil jawarih. And you must work towards it with your limbs. And this is why anytime you have in the Quran, innal ladina amanu, you will get wa amilu salihat. Innal ladina amanu wa amilu salihat. Indeed, those people who believe and do good deeds. So action is part of our iman. Action is part of our iman. And the more action we do, al-amal salih, the good deeds we do, the more action we do, the closer we get to the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. The closer we get to Allah Azza wa Jal. So those people who know, definitely, they're better than those people who do not know. And knowledge comes in stages. So some of us may just know La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah because we have now come into Islam. And some of us may know more than that, and more than that, and some of us may know very deep into the Islamic knowledge. The question is, how many of us has taken that knowledge and translated into action? So a person who's a sheikh may not be as pious. He has more equipment and more machinery and more instruments to be. But he may not be as pious as the man who working on the road CPEP. Because that man fasts Mondays and Thursdays, and he gives money in charity even though he's just keeping his head above water. And he gets up in the morning and reaches Tahajjud before Fajr. And he's kind. And the sheikh may not be like that. Or whoever. So don't judge. Don't judge. And if the knowledge is not translated, then we would have lost out on opportunities. It has to be translated into action. Right? You remember the hadith of Aisha when she was asked about the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What she said? Kana khuluquhul Quran. His character was the Quran. He was the living embodiment of the Quran. There were no two ways about it. You didn't see the Quran as being one thing and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being something else. So there was consistency in everything that he did. And there was no discordance. Kana khuluquhul Quran. So in a hadith by Abu Darda, and Abu Darda called, he said, indeed I have heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, and this is important because we need to encourage each other in seeking knowledge. He says, Man salaka tariqan yatlubu fihi ilman salakallahu lahu bihi tariqan ila man salakallahu bihi tariqan min turuqil jannah. Whosoever walks in a pathway seeking in it knowledge, Allah Azza wa Jal will make with his seeking that knowledge, he'll make one of the pathways to the different pathways into Jannah. And the Talabul Ilm they're speaking about, the ulama will say, is Islamic knowledge, not secular knowledge. Islamic knowledge, and Allah knows best. Islamic knowledge. وَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَ لَتَضَعُ أَجْنِحَتَهَا رِضًا لِطَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ. And the angels, they would spread their wings in pleasure for the person who seeks knowledge. That's a nice sign. We don't see it, but it's a nice sign. Angels, not jinns and evil people, but angels spreading their wings in pleasure of the person who's seeking knowledge. And the angels will only be, if the angels are pleased with something, then Allah Azza wa Jal is pleased as well. Because they will not be pleased with something that Allah Azza wa Jal is displeased with. وَإِنَّ الْعَالِمَ يَسْتَغْفِرُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And the alim, whosoever is in the heavens and the earth, ask Allah to forgive him. Now, an alim is not just a person who possesses knowledge. It's a person who possesses knowledge and works with that knowledge, or else he's not an alim. He's just hamilul ilm, he's just carrying knowledge. There's a difference between an alim and a person who carries knowledge. An alim, he works with his knowledge. A carrier of knowledge doesn't work with his knowledge, he just carries it. There's a big difference. Well, hitan fi jawfil ma. Even the fish in the depth of the ocean, in the depth of the water, ask Allah for forgiveness for the alim. After he would have sought his knowledge and whatnot, and he becomes an alim. And I'll make it very clear for everybody, especially the brothers and the sisters who are doing higher Islamic knowledge. When we graduate from Medina, Islamic University of Medina, Qura, or the Darul Uloom in all over the world, or whatever madrasa we graduate from, you're not an alim. Don't call yourself an alim. You're still a student of knowledge. The people have to acknowledge you for your works and whatnot, to view you as being an alim. Do not call yourself an alim. There has to be humility. Be humble. And let the people recognize whether you're an alim or not. And after that, then you may be an alim. So be very careful of that little point. Because sometimes we graduate and we say, oh, I am graduate from Islamic University of Medina, I am a sheikh. Right? I'm coming home in Trinidad, I'm going to tell people, haram, bid'ah, this and that, because I'm a sheikh. I have authority. You don't do that. You be humble. Make sure your amal is good. Make sure you're practicing what you know as best as you can. Sometimes it's too much. But you be diligent and work hard at that. And eventually if people find that you're an alim, mashallah, they're going to recognize you for that. Right? And Allah knows best. وَإِنَّ فَضْلَ الْعَالِمِ عَلَى الْعَابِدِ. And the virtue of an alim over an ordinary abid, who is not an alim, a worshipper over ordinary worshipper, who is not an alim, كَفَضْلِ الْقَمَرِ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَوَاكِبِ. It's like the virtue of the moon on the night of Badr, which was a full moon, over the rest of the stars. When there's a full moon, the stars, they fade. وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ وَرَثَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. This is the sweetness of it now. This is part of the sweetness of knowledge and practicing with the knowledge. The ulama, the scholars, are the inheritors of the prophets. And who were the prophets? The prophets were people who were sent with a message. If they were messengers, they delivered the message in a book or whatever. But they deliver the message to the people, and they practiced what they delivered. Those were the Anbiya. And if the ulama have to be the inheritors of the Anbiya, they have to do the same thing as well. Deliver the message and practice it. But practice the message and then deliver it. It's the other way around. Practice the message and deliver it. So a person who practices the message and delivers it, that is the true alim. Not necessarily the person who knows more. Okay? Because the ulama are the inheritors of the Anbiya. And this was the characteristics of the Anbiya. You couldn't find discordance in what they preached and what they did. There was none. No discordance. Everything was in rhythm. Rhythmic. Their teachings and what they practiced. وَإِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ لَمْ يُوَرِثُوا دِينَارًا وَلَا دِرْهَمًا. The ulama didn't, the Anbiya, the prophets, didn't leave any silver coin and gold coin. They didn't leave any wealth. It means wealth. إِنَّمَا وَرَّثُوا الْعِلْمِ. They left in inheritance knowledge. They left in inheritance knowledge. فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ. So whosoever takes that inheritance, the inheritance is there for all of us, you know. The inheritance of the Anbiya, of the prophets, are there for every single one of us. Do we want to take it or not? If we take it, he says, فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ. Whosoever takes it, then he has taken hold of a massive fortune A massive fortune. So the wealth really, when people talk about wealth, is not wealth of money and whatnot. Wealth is really the wealth of the heart and iman. So that is an encouragement definitely for us to seek knowledge about the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. And in seeking knowledge, we know what is halal, what is haram. And that hadith, al-halal bayin, wal-haram bayin. What is halal is clear, and what is haram is clear. Okay? We know of all those things. So, if we do not know, if we do not have knowledge, how will we know what to eat? Can we eat dogs and cats and lions? I read sometime last year that they were having these lion hamburgers, lion burgers, whatever it is, somewhere in the States or so. They imported some lion meat. La ilaha illallah. People eat all sorts of strange things in the world. But we can't have lion burgers. We are Muslims. But if it came out as being popular and you don't know about it, you might want to try it. Okay? There are many animals that we are not allowed to eat, and there's a whole lot that we are allowed to eat. How would we know if we don't have knowledge? So knowledge is very, very important. Primarily, first of all, it's to have the correct aqidah. So the Quran tells us, Yadullahi fawqa aydihim, the hand of Allah is above their hands. Hand, Allah's hand, like mine? Like what? Like an elephant, he has had the biggest hand, like an elephant hand, like an elephant paw, whatever you want to call it. Is it like a monkey, like an ape, like what? So the Quran also tells us, and you see this is the knowledge, Laysa kamithlihi shay. There's nothing like him. So we can't compare it. Right? Kullu shay'in fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika dhul jalali wal ikram. Everything will be destroyed and fade away. But the face of your Lord will remain. The face, the countenance, he has two eyes, eyebrows, so when he sweat, then it will go into his eyes. Does he have a hairline, mustache, beard? Does Allah have beard? He commands us to keep the beard. Does he have a beard? When he smiles, can you see teeth? Laysa kamithlihi shay. There's nothing like him. We don't put any meaning to it. He has a face, he has a face. And we don't make any comparison to that face. We don't negate it. And we don't philosophize about it. We just believe he has a face as is suitable to Allah Azza wa Jal without putting anything to it. And if you don't know that, how are we going to do? We're going to philosophize. And this is where, and Allah knows best, the Jews and the Christians went by this. This is where whosoever was sent to the people who philosophize about the Romans and the Greeks, they try to put too many meanings into things when it's very, very simple. And they lost their knowledge. We can't become like people like that. Because there are different sects in Islam who would try to philosophize all these things, and we shouldn't be doing that. So we have to have the correct aqidah system, the correct belief system. Without knowledge, we will not have the correct belief system. And this is part of the connection of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Part of the connection there is that without Muhammadur Rasulullah, we will never know and learn about La ilaha illallah. And this is how Allah Azza wa Jal willed it. Because if we do not accept Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger and of Allah Azza wa Jal and his servant, then how are we going to learn about La ilaha illallah? We won't have the Quran if we don't accept that. We will not accept the Quran. So there are many people outside there believe in one God. And they don't follow any particular religion. They're committing shirk. I would say the majority of them committing shirk. Because they don't know. They might know it's shirk. Because they do not know how to label it as shirk. But they believe in one God. So for those people, we're not talking about people who away from civilization and they believe in one God and they do not commit shirk and they follow a natural way, they are called Ahlul Fitrah, and inshallah they will be accepted as long as they don't commit shirk and they mix it up. But someone living in the mudun, in the cities and whatnot, believing in a God but not following any particular way. And their religion basically is to be good and moral. So that's it. Do they have knowledge about Allah? No, because they have not accepted Muhammadur Rasulullah. So to get knowledge of La ilaha illallah, we have to also accept Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If we don't accept that, we cannot get La ilaha illallah. This is not elevating the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam to the status of God. It is not. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, La tutruni. And all this is part of knowledge. La tutruni kama atratin nasara ibn Maryam. Do not praise me. And we know some Muslim people do it. Do not praise me like the Christians did Isa, the son of Maryam. Innama ana Abdullah wa Rasulu. I am only this messenger of Allah, and the slave of Allah and his messenger. Faqulu Abdullah wa Rasulu. Then say, in reference to me, the servant of Allah and his messenger. Or kama qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we do not elevate the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ma Muhammad illa Rasul. He's only a messenger. He's not a God or a semi-God or someone to whom you make dua to. Or you talk to Allah Azza wa Jal through the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is shirk. Or go to his qabr, his grave, and make dua to him. People do that. And all this is jahala, lack of knowledge, ignorance. So we put Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his proper place. He is our chief. He's a chief of, but he says so in a hadith, Ana Sayyidu Bani Adam wala fakhr. I am the chief of all of man, but there is no boasting about it. He was given that by the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. He was given that by Allah Azza wa Jal. He didn't take it. He was given that title. And he was prepared for it. And he was chosen. And one of his name is Mustafa, the chosen one. Who chose him? Allah. Who chose us as Muslims? Who wajtabakum? He has chosen you. Allah has chosen us as Muslims. You think without Allah's guidance we'll be Muslims, whether we're born in Muslim family or not? How many people born in Muslim family and they grow up and they change their religion? I know of some of them. And I'm sure everybody here knows of some of them. For whatever reason, good or bad, whatever, they change. Weren't there people at the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who were munafiqun, hypocrites? They saying they believe and they didn't believe. When the Dajjal comes, 70,000 hypocrites will flee Medina. They were existing at the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the hypocrites. So, the Aqidah, without knowledge, we will not have a proper Aqidah. And we can do all our goodies, and if a person commits shirk and keeps on committing shirk and doesn't realize, but he's committing shirk, that's a serious offense. We have to know. This is why that hadith came about as well. We have to learn about our religion. We have to learn about it. So too, the a'mal. How can we do our salah if we don't have knowledge? How do we learn to pray? Facing the Qibla, where we get that from? It's knowledge. All these things are knowledge. If you don't have knowledge about it, you may say, well, I don't have any knowledge. But you know to pray, you know to fast, you know the laws of fasting, what you shouldn't do when you're fasting. Right? You know who you can get married to. This is knowledge. Everybody has to have some level of knowledge. I know some of us are really in a bad situation. Long time ago, there was a particular gentleman, a Muslim. He used to deal very, very heavily in jinns and he couldn't recite Surah Fatiha. Actually, he was doing some stuff that he shouldn't be doing. Right? And couldn't recite Surah Fatiha. May Allah Azza wa Jal forgive him. Surah Fatiha. When I went to Hajj in the last time in 2009, some of the brothers who were with us, well, they were a little before me, a couple of years, but I stayed with them and whatnot. Brothers who are living in Saudis, they were telling me that the situation for some of the people in the outskirts of Medina is getting really, really bad. They're not praying, they're not doing this. So he was even telling me that even basic surahs, these people don't know. They can't read the Quran. Arabs living on the outskirts of Medina. I don't know how many of them it would be or what, but this is bad. At the time when Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they would send their children on the outskirts of Medina, on the outskirts of the city of Mecca, for them to grow up, to learn the Arabic language. It's reversed now. But it shows that if we are not careful, we are going to lose that knowledge. With knowledge, we understand our relationship with everybody, with everything, between ourselves and the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. We would learn what is our relationship with Allah, what is our relationship with man, Muslim and non-Muslim. How do you treat your neighbor? There was a hadith that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept on talking about the neighbor, the rights of the neighbor, until one of the Sahaba mentioned he thought that eventually the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was going to make the neighbor inherit from you. So much he spoke about the rights of the neighbor, and it didn't matter whether the neighbor is Muslim or non-Muslim. Just like your parents, about taking care of your parents, not treating them bad. It doesn't matter whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. That's your duty. If we do not know about this mu'amala, how we must interact with each other, how are we going to do it properly? Trade. وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah Azza wa Jal has made trading allowed, and He has prohibited riba, interest. What is interest? Who is going to tell us that? How are we going to know what is interest and what is not interest, especially nowadays? When Rasulullah Sallam has warned us that there will come a time when we all will deal with interest, and if we don't deal in interest, the bukhar of it, the effect of it will come on us. The bukhar means a spray. And a lot of us have these little credit cards and these little, Scotia Bank card and whatever. We go to the supermarket and we buy and we swipe it. And all these things have some little charge in it that perhaps can be related back to interest. Regardless of what you do, it's touching us. And the statement of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is there. How we will know the importance of the Sunnah? There are Muslims who say they don't accept Sunnah. Right? And the Sunnah is relevant. The Quran speaks about the Sunnah. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَىٰ. He doesn't speak on his own whims and fancies. Speaking to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about him. It is only inspiration that has been given to him. So whatever the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said and done is Sunnah and is valid. The Quran is telling us that we have to follow those things. وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the Rasul has given you, take it. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. And what is prohibited for you, stay away from it. With knowledge, we will know how to be guided, and we will stay away from misguidance. And we've been talking all about that this whole tonight. What is guidance? What is misguidance? And this Quranic ayah, I always quote it, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And this is especially for the youngsters. If you were to follow and obey the majority of the people on the earth, they are going to lead you away from the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. If you want it, because something is vogue and new and a fad, you want to keep on holding on to it, don't do that. Okay? So you are unique, a Muslim is unique, and we should be paving the way, not following. With knowledge, we can do a lot of self-development. We know how to handle situations that are bad, putting our trust in the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. We can develop ourselves in our faith, in our believing in ourselves, believing in the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. putting our trust in the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, we learn how to get solutions to problems. That's a big one, getting solutions to problems. We can strategize, all right? We can ask for opinions, and the idea of shura comes about, where we ask people for ideas and opinions, right? Fas'alu ahla dhikri in kuntum la ta'alamun. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. This is how you would go to a doctor when you're sick. When you want to build a house, you go to a carpenter. Right? When you're making some food for the Jamaat, you don't go and ask somebody who can't cook. The Jamaat will complain, and rightly so. Let the brothers who can cook come and cook, or the sisters or whatever. So if you want to find out something about Islam, go to the people of knowledge. Right? We have the internet and all that. But sometimes, in understanding a problem and issue, there is a Trinidadian problem with a Trinidadian slant in it. The internet may not give you the answer. Right? They would only hear it from one side. They may not understand the conditions and the situation of the people living in Trinidad, because sometimes fatwas have to take those things into consideration. And the shuyukh in Makkah and Medina, they will only get basically what the problem is, and they'll give a fatwa based on that. But the conditions and the circumstances might be a bit different to what they understood. Okay? So sometimes a fatwa in an un-Islamic country or a non-Islamic country might be different to one in an Islamic country. Right? I always try to quote this thing that I remembered that happened in the 70s, in the mid-70s or so. In a mosque in France, this Arab came into a mosque in France, and he saw a whole lot of young people sitting down and praying on chairs. Strong people. And he went up to the Imam after Salah and he said, well, what's going on? These people, it's not allowed for them to sit in chairs. But what happened? The French people like to wear tight clothing. So these people are Muslims, they like to wear the tight clothing. They can't go down in sajda. La ilaha illallah. So the Imam tell them, listen, Alhamdulillah, so far I have been able and successful to bring them to the mosque. If you could do better than that, go right ahead. We might end up chasing them away from the mosque. Maybe their salah might not be valid. Who knows? But the thing is, they have reached the mosque instead of being outside there and not in the mosque. And maybe with understanding later on, they would realize, oh gosh, I have to stand and pray and sit, so I can't wear this tight clothing. If they start to love their salah, this is the whole thing about it, Yeah, and we spoke about it in the beginning, where the knowledge has to be in the heart. Right? We have to somehow or the other cajole other people, other Muslims, to love their praying. If they do not love their praying, like somebody, maybe students in Darul Uloom, if the students in Darul Uloom or anywhere else, our own children, if they do not love praying, when they by themselves, they will not pray. They cannot be praying because they fear you. Because when you're not at home, they can lie to you and tell you, yeah, I prayed. We don't want them doing that. We don't want them lying, and we don't want them not praying. So we cannot be people who are, fierce on them. And that Quranic ayah again, لَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّ مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you, Muhammad, were to be harsh or hard-hearted, they will run away from you. So when we want to train people how to learn to pray and all that, and to develop themselves, we have to be nice and kind, not forceful. So, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, these are some ideas of education, a whole lot of different things as well you can see. One of the main points is that we have to do it for Allah Azza wa Jal. We have to go and seek knowledge for Allah Azza wa Jal. Innamal a'malu binniyat. Actions are by intentions. So we do it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. We should love seeking knowledge and love putting that knowledge into practice. And when we're teaching other people, we have to be nice and kind. Even people, there are a whole lot of people in Trinidad, we know there are a whole lot of bid'ah and all that. If every time you go on the podium and say bid'ah, 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 people will not want to listen to you. But if you are nice and kind and you quote from the Quran, you quote from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, eventually people will have some credibility in you and they will listen to you, and Allah's guidance is there. So we have to be very, very careful in the way we deal with each other in distributing this knowledge. And I'm not saying to compromise. I'm saying what is right, what is wrong. But the way we deliver, and if people want to listen to us again, right, they will listen to you again. So there are people you can tell them that so-and-so is bad, and they will want to listen to you again. And some other people will say it in such a way, you don't want to ever hear that person again. You don't even want to see his face. Because in your opinion, he is probably a bit too rude and prudish. So may Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those people among the ulama, or among the people who are pious in this world and in the hereafter. May He give us knowledge and may He give us the strength. Because it's easy to get knowledge, but to put it into practice needs a lot of effort. And this is actually what heaven is surrounded with, that knowledge and that practice. So may He make us of those people, and may He save us from the punishment of the grave and that of the hellfire and the anxieties of the day of judgment. And may He forgive us all and enter us in Jannatul Firdaus among the companionship of the Anbiya and the Salihun and the Shuhada. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم على نبيه الكريم.
شاطئ في يديه كفارة للخطايا وشاطئ في يديه كفارة للخطايا ذهبت يوما إليه بأدمعي وشقايا ورحت ألقي عليه تبتلي وهدايا